Hi, my name is Nigel Thomas. I'm the founder of David to Goliath, and you're listening to EA Interviews.
EA Interviews, episode 533.
Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the imperfect action round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
Expert Authority World. Have you ever had a story to share? Have you ever wondered about how to share it and get it out there? What if there was a framework you could follow to do this? You know, maybe you have a good life, maybe you had a bad life, maybe you had a decent life and something happened and, you're trying to make a comeback and you just want to share that with people. Get your business message out there. I talk about that. With the publishing, I love talking about messaging and story. And that's why I've brought to you today, Nigel Thomas, right after we thank our sponsor. Every business needs a book, including yours. And that's why I'm launching my new book to help you regardless of where you think your current writing abilities are. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Once again, that's eapublishingmethodbook.com. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, hailing from Manchester, UK, Nigel Thomas. Nigel, how are you feeling today?
I'm doing good, my friends. You always, manage to put that energy into people, Mario. So the credit is all yours, and I'm really, really happy to be with you today.
I appreciate the kind words, but respectfully, I'm excited to hear from you. I just turned this thing on and started rolling it so we could capture the moment, but I have a feeling I'm in for a treat because there was stuff I told you in the pre-interview. Let's just save that for the interview. So why David to Goliath? Why'd you pick that? That's what I wanted to ask you. There's so many names in the world. Tell me the backstory of this, because that's very specific, and I love what you shared. If you could please share it again about.
Yeah.
I think you know what.
So 6 months ago, I opened up my phone, and there was a text that I read. I have found someone else. And that was the last message, Mario, that I ever read from the woman I love most. And in that moment, the tiny bit of hope I was clinging onto was shattered into 1,000 pieces. And I had nothing left to give. So at that moment, in Austin, Texas, I stepped forward onto my balcony, looking down at the concrete 22 floors below, preparing myself to jump. And in that moment, I said to myself, Mario, if I'm not going to continue for me, I'm going to do this for everyone else who deserves a second chance in life.
Wow.
I needed something to bring me back from these suicidal thoughts. And that was where I came across David to Goliath. It's a newsletter, it's a community, but it's a movement. It's not just another boring email that's sitting in your inbox gathering dust. It's a comeback story. It's a tale of how David went to Goliath and took on, the biggest demons in his mind. And the reason I wanted to do that is because in today's world, where obviously we have everyone in such poor mental health, suicide rates through the roof, depression at its all-time high, we need more leaders to stand up and say, yes, I'm struggling. Yes, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm running a business, but I'm suffering so much. But here is what I'm doing about it. And I wanted to document my comeback in public and share the mindsets, the tools, and the strategies that are helping me build this newsletter. And what is the Goliath? What is my Goliath? 100,000 subscribers in 1 calendar year. And as we speak today, we're at 23,000 subscribers 15 weeks in. We're making a lot of progress and we're getting a lot of people on board with this movement. But why it's David to Goliath is because that was the best underdog story of all time, right? And it's to show people that no matter where you are in life, no matter how much you're struggling, that there is hope. And we have to work in the darkness when no one is looking. And we have to rely on ourselves and take that self-responsibility and turn, for me and for others, that excruciating pain into a mission. Maybe it's to help yourself, maybe it's to help other people. But that, Mario, is why it's David to Goliath.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm sorry to hear you went through that, but it sounds like it was the launch pad of your new beginning. And I'm glad you're here with us for sure.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride. I struggle still every day, but I'm vulnerable about it. But I'm not sitting there crying myself to sleep because I already tried that and it didn't get me anywhere. And I have to stamp out that voice of the victim, Mario, by doing hard exercises, eating a clean diet, sleeping right, but most importantly, taking action. You know, building a business, what we love as entrepreneurs, but putting pressure on myself to say, I've got to do this, and I've got to do this now for other people. And I've never had so much purpose in my life. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, there's tons of people that they're dealing with all of it, you know, and I hear about it for years. Just the behind the scenes, it's like you see someone has a successful life, business, whatever the case is, but you never know what they're dealing with. And it's usually when it's a fun event or you're relaxing or something and it's like, hey, how's it going? And, you know, they don't need to put on a show for everyone or their team or staff or whatever it is. And it's like, you know, this is going well, but there's always that but, you know, this is great, but. And it could be, you know, relationship, personal, business, partnerships. It could be someone on the team. It could be the kids. It could be lack of kids. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter what the it is. It's just like everyone's struggling a silent battle. And I think it should be voiced more.
100%. And the thing is everyone's chasing happiness, right? But that isn't how humans are designed. You know, we feel all these emotions, but this is actually part of the human experience. And to give a great example to kind of relate it to business, look at the stock market. Look at the stock market for the last 100 years. If humans weren't emotional and their emotions didn't go up and down, it wouldn't go up and down like it does.
Mm-hmm.
That's a reflection of human psychology. And it shows that where there's darkness, we wouldn't know darkness if we didn't have light. We wouldn't know happiness if we didn't have sadness. So the human experience in life is actually
both sides of that spectrum. Both sides of that spectrum, right?
Exactly. And it's, you know, the opposites are important. And I think most people forget that. And if they chase happiness, they're never truly fulfilled. Because I think it's okay to not feel great, but you've got to understand this is part of the human experience. But yes, it definitely helps talking about it. And when we talk about happiness, I don't know if you know this, but Harvard University did the longest ever study on human happiness. And it was quite astounding, the results they found, Mario. And the key to all human happiness, physical health, everything, they tested everything for 85 years. They followed these guys around America. And what they found is the key is a small number of deep, meaningful relationships. And that would speak to the biggest issues we've got today, right? Because while social media has been incredible for connecting us in a global marketplace, it's terrible for deep, meaningful relationships. So you've got all of these entrepreneurs who are now, you know, quitting their 9-to-5 jobs, starting remote businesses, and they're all working from home.
Isolated.
You know, exactly. And they have remote teams sometimes, but they never see people in person. But we need that interaction. This is how we were built as tribes. We can't fight against Mother Nature, and we're trying to use all of these pills and substances and supplements. But the reality is we just need to face the truth. We need to be surrounded by people. We need to open up to people. And it's not always easy as entrepreneurs to find those people who understand us, but they are out there. And my advice is to everyone is keep looking, because you will find your people. And it's, you know, a process I'm still going through, but it's the best decision an investment you can ever make in your life.
I agree. I've been doing more the last couple of years of it's cool when you want to be efficient with something, click here, do this, but at the end of the day, it's like we're not machines. We need to be around people. So I've been doing more in-person experiences, events, stuff like that, not just speaking at them, but attending them. So I can, I can get filled back up with high-level people. And it's also given me ideas for some things, that I was like, I know a lot of cool people. I'm like, what if we did, got this to this to this, and just had a fun time with it. Because at the end of the day, it's like, wow, that, everyone's just going so quick. Do you remember in middle and high school when it was like every day, it was like, how much fun can I have? And now it's like, I don't want to say me, because I get irritable if I don't do something fun every day. But it feels like when people go, I haven't gone to the movies in 2 months, 3 months. It's like, when do you do this stuff? And I'm not saying the movies are going to make everyone happy, but we used to do it so frequently, and now it seems like it's a treat, like twice a year to just do something. It's like you're a grown adult and you have money. There is nothing stopping you from playing hooky even, or eating ice cream for breakfast.
The other thing is you can intertwine it with business. If you run a remote team, why not do a retreat where you all meet together? People in your team would love that. I know when I've met with my remote teams in the past and I was building these agencies, the before and after, it was night and day. The energy we all had as a team after meeting each other, actually understanding the human behind the screen, asking those questions, seeing what they care about, seeing who they love, and really understanding their passions as people. It's just unrivaled. And 1 to 2 to 3 days just spending that time together as a team, which is business, not only massively impacts productivity and results, it just gets everyone bought in, because when people care, they're more empowered. And then, what comes from that is team culture, right? And that's the thing that drives business.
I'm so glad you're getting people together. You chose David and Goliath for the great story. When was the first time you heard the story?
I went to a Christian school, and it's interesting because you talk about storytelling. I don't really remember much about school, if I'm being honest. I don't really remember, history lessons and all that kind of stuff. But what I do remember is how Jesus fed the 5,000, how Moses parted the Red Sea, and who could forget Noah's Ark. And the reason I say that, you can have whatever religion you believe in. I'm not here to preach. I respect everyone, their backgrounds. But what I'm here to tell you is, why do I remember those things? It's because they're stories, and that's how as humans we communicate. So it was at school, actually. I believe I heard it. And then all throughout my life, I've always attached myself with the underdogs, people who had nothing, who had everything against them. And then when I started looking at the best stories in the world, whether it's great sports people we follow, whether it's great musicians, whether it's great entrepreneurs, the ones that always have the best stories, let's think about a script of a billionaire who was given everything, never had to struggle in life. Terrible storyline. No one wants to listen to that. People want to listen to the people who slay dragons, and they have to go through immense struggle and turn that into something incredible. So I always related with it. And actually at school, I was an outsider. I had, really bad skin. I've got eczema, the skin condition.
Okay.
I was ostracized from the rest of the class. And I still remember, Mario, because when we used to do sports back in the day, all the guys used to shower together. And I was stood there fully naked with wounds and scars all over my body. As the other kids pointed at me, they laughed at me. They said that I'd never amount to anything in life, how ugly I was. And they used to call me, my nickname was Krusty the Clown, because my skin was so dry. So I knew deep down inside of me that I had something great, and I just didn't know what to do with it. And it was only 10 years on, when I was in the corporate world, I was doing things to please my parents and other people, keeping myself to myself. At 26 years old, one walk home from work, when I said, enough is enough. I'm going to make a decision for myself. And I made the decision to quit the corporation I was in, which is AECOM, a big construction consultancy, as a cost manager, to go all in on entrepreneurship and figure out this marketing agency stuff. And I went on to build 2 7-figure agencies from the ground up. And it was the best decision. And to the dismay of my parents and everyone around me who told me it was the worst idea in the world, it was the best decision I ever made in my life. And I think the whole reason why, if we're kind of relating it back to David to Goliath and the whole underdog thing, is it's self-belief. And that's what I think entrepreneurs struggle with the most, because no one's going to hand you an exact blueprint. There might be courses out there that say the 26-step process, blah, blah, blah. But as we both know, Mario, business is so fast changing. There's so many moving parts. There's 8 billion people in this world. You have to understand that your path is going to be different to other people's, and you have to take risks without knowing you're guaranteed to get to the other side. And how do you do that? You believe in yourself. And that's obviously what David had passed to him to beat the mighty Goliath. So the cornerstone of everything I'm doing is, I had this woman believe in me. That changed my life. But then I had that no longer. So I had to believe in myself. And that's what it's all about. And that's why I resonate so strongly with the underdog stories.
I think God's watching over you. I think you are such a great storyteller, and you have a heart, and you're helping so many people. I don't think it's coincidence that we're talking and you're still here.
Yeah, man. I mean, what can I say? God smiles on me sometimes.
I appreciate you for sharing and being vulnerable with it, because I don't think enough people are. I don't think enough men are. And the reality is there's a lot of people hurting, and I can relate 100%. When you're telling me about the kids picking on you, I remember being thrown down in the mud and putting glue in my pocket and then sand on top of that. And, a different story, but similar storyline. I guess it would be if it was a movie, if we had two different movies. It's like kids are little, can I say crackhead? Kids are mean.
Insecure is the word I'd use.
Oh, insecure?
That's what I personally think, because you see a lot of them when they mature, obviously they look back and think, well, that's ridiculous. A lot of them probably don't even remember the
It is insecurity, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not that they're mean, it's that they're insecure. That's why they're lashing out being mean.
Exactly, because they want attention. They want to show if it's a guy, for example, they want to show psychologically they're kind of like the alpha of the pack. And the way they do that is they dim down someone else's status so they can rise their status in the pack. That's like psychologically.
But it doesn't actually work.
No, it doesn't work. But, and the other thing is they don't realize the trauma that they're causing for the other children. And we carry these traumas throughout the rest of our lives. But if we understand that we can actually use those to our advantage, and something that I kind of disagree with a lot of people is that people say don't use dark energy, right? Don't use pain to drive you. And I understand where they're coming from to an extent, but that's all I ever did. I only had like a lot of pain and insecurity to drive me. That's where I got all my strength from, and I've got it again now. So I'm saying to people, if you're in a hard place and you've got a lot of pain in your life and you need to use that to drive you, that's fine. Like, use whatever you have. It doesn't really matter. I know, like, I can just tell you my own case study. Like, I was in a lot of painful situations. I'm still in a painful situation, and I'm using that to motivate me to get out.
I think it's a hidden superpower. I've done it too.
Yeah.
I probably still do to an extent. I'd say it's less, but it's still there. And I think everyone has some degree of it, but instead of trying to have everything perfect, it's like when it's good, you can be excited, but when you're irritated, I love using that as motivate. When you said in people, I heard it too, a lot. And people are going, you're never going to mount. You're not, whatever. It just makes me want to go watch this.
Yeah.
And you can use both in your favor as long as you don't let them consume you. 100%. And now you're like double dipping. It's like, it literally doesn't matter what you say. Like, either way, I'm going to be excited.
Yeah. Well, I've got this thing that I call it the path of the undeniable, which is instead of, trying to go after those people and have conversations and argue with them, no. Put that to one side. This is what I'm doing. I'm putting everything into my life, and I'm going to become so undeniably good to the point where I just cannot be ignored. Because there becomes a point when you do such great things, you drive so much value in marketplaces and help so many people, when the word just starts spreading and it compounds, and there's just becomes a point where you just cannot be ignored because you're so undeniably good. And if you do, sure, maybe the negative energy is driving you, but you have a good purpose and a mission to help other people, and it's not self-serving. I just really do believe that. And I also believe that for all the people that wronged you, that long term, even though it takes a long time, the universe does eventually arc to the truth. And I do believe that.
This is surreal. I got to be honest. You are like verbatim one of the quotes from my book, my first book, like over a decade ago. Instead of trying to get everyone's attention, why not be so captivating they can't look away?
Exactly. It's Frank, it's Frank Sinatra, right? The best success is just the best revenge is massive success.
And I love that you're doing it from a, how can I help more people? I mean, having 500 or 1,000 people is a good list. Having 5,000 to 10,000 is rare air, and you already have 25,000 and have a goal of 100,000. That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
How are you promoting it?
Yeah, so for some context, when I was in my last agency, one of the main ways I grew that is I built a personal brand on LinkedIn. So I've got over 50,000 followers there. So I'm doing that. I also, within those agencies, the teams that I ran, I spent over $100 million on paid advertising. So I know how paid advertising works. So we're also using that. And then obviously I'm getting on podcasts like this, spreading the word. So we're using that, and then we're tapping in some other things. We're going to do some SEO stuff, but I'm just doing everything that I can. And obviously the resources that I have, I'm bootstrapped. I'm just going as hard as I can, Mario, until I'm just going to keep pushing it and keep pushing it. And I do believe that with this kind of story, and if I keep driving to help other people on this purpose, I'll eventually crack it, and we'll help a lot of people.
I think you're already helping a lot of people, helping me. I'm really enjoying this. I talk to a lot of people, and they're always nice conversations. They're good, but this is like, it's resonating with me, I suppose I could say. And I love your words. I'm like, oh, insecure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people with the whole personal branding thing, they've been caught up in the be authentic. And then people are like,
what's that mean? Stop lying to them?
Yeah. But it's almost like people are trying to be authentic. It's like, no, you don't understand the concept. Just be yourself. And the truth is so hard to come by these days, because obviously, being politically correct, and you're going to offend some people.
Boring.
People just don't want to speak the truth anymore. But the thing is we're all sat at home, we're all scrolling through our phones, we're all thinking the same things, but no one's willing to actually just say the truth. And guess what? Some people aren't going to like what you say. But for the people who do, it's so worth it. And the best thing, and this is the best thing, Mario, is when you go to bed at night and you look yourself in the mirror, you look at that reflection, and you can just say to yourself, I'm living true to myself. And that feeling, it doesn't matter how much money you have, that feeling is priceless.
I agree 100%. 100%.
And so many people don't have that. They know deep down they're pushing their true identity.
They're forcing it.
Exactly.
I can't even imagine walking to family Christmas or Easter or something and being like, hi, everyone. It's good to see you. I'm going to be authentic when we have a conversation today. Like, what in the real talk?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so excited to be here. Like, I get it. I see it on the videos
tapping
and
into
stuff.
viral topics that, people want to hear about, or trying to push certain agendas because they will make you more of a favorite with some people in the family. It's just like, sure, does that, get some laughs going in the family or something? Yeah, maybe, but deep down you're lying to yourself. And that's just like, the worst lies are the ones to yourself. You probably know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah. Um, for over a decade, trying to outdo everyone, trying to do this better. And in many cases I did, but I was still running from myself. It's like, nailed this. Oh, by the way, you're still here. What's going on? And once I started fixing that, it was like, oh my gosh, some of the stuff like I thought was a goal that I'm still working towards. I'm like, I don't know. It just got so clear. And I'm like, I achieved that 6 years ago. There's only one common denominator, and it was I'm the problem. And
Yeah.
I've been fixing it more and more and more. And it's like fun.
Yeah. And do you mind if I ask you an honest question?
Please.
Who is the true Mario?
Person I knew I was at 16 to 18 that wanted to help everyone and be super generous, not worry about all the details and the rules and this. It's like, if someone's in trouble, if someone needs help, like, you just help them, and it didn't matter what the cost. And because I started my first business at 12, and relative to my age, I never was really thinking about money because I always had it. And it's not like it was $1 million a month or anything, but if I said, hey, let's go to the movies, and you said, I'd love to go, but I don't have the $5 or whatever it was. Hey, no problem. I'd rather have you there and having fun. And I've always loved people, and I've been praying about it to be more like I was when I was younger in some regards, because a lot of the stuff I was figuring out in my 20s, I didn't need to figure out. It was, I had figured it out, and then I was swayed by other people, and I started to believe in this trash, and it was untrue, and I had to unlearn what I already knew to be true prior. So it was kind of annoying. I was like, I felt like it went 10 steps back, and I just started going, maybe I wasn't wrong. And the reality is, in a lot of the instances, business and personal, I wasn't. I believed it. It was true. And now I realize it probably was even before high school. I just, you're kind of loopy. It's like toy car and a gun and whatever. And it's like, you're happy, but some of it's been ingrained. I can actually pinpoint now to 8 to 12, in some instances 5. But I just actually, before we started, I was chatting with our team, and there's things I was saying. I go, yeah, the one thing I haven't changed since 2008 was this. And it was always being honest and upfront with people, always adding value, and always doing what's in their best interest. Like, we've taken the hit many times. I go, but when you made that comment about sleeping at night, I'm like, I'm here to help people. Yeah. So the true me is that amplified, and it's fun. It's getting even more fun, and I have no doubt I'm just getting started.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is, firstly, I appreciate you sharing that, and secondly, I just feel like you need to hear this. You're a really good person, and thank you for being who you are.
Thank you. So, wow. Tell me more what's in store, because clearly you've got a lot of this. Oh, I got to go back to the other thing too, but let's, you already have a lot of this figured out. You're helping people with the newsletter. You want to get it to 100,000. What's that goal look like, and why that number? Why not 50? Why not 250?
Because I needed something massive to get me out of that hellhole. And for me, I love risk takers. So I thought of something, as they say, like, if your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough.
Yeah.
And that was a goal where I looked at what a lot of people have done in the newsletter industry, and I saw, Cody Sanchez, if you know her, she did that. She got to 100,000 in 1 year. And there were a few other people, but a very, very small list of names. And I was like, yeah, that's it. I knew instinctively. It was like when you said when you were 8 to 12, I didn't need another reason, or
You
I
didn't need a
didn't need
training
anyone
course.
to, yeah, I didn't need anyone to map it out on a spreadsheet for me. I just knew Mario. I was just like, that's it. And I was like, I'm going to figure out a way to do that. And I also knew that if I did it, the story that I'll be able to share after doing it will inspire so many more people.
And that's the ripple effect. That's one of the things we look with. Well, to be honest, it's one of the things we look with for guests on the show, as well as our publishing author clients. Like, if we're going to invest and commit to doing this, how long will this outlive if tomorrow's the last day? And I'm very proud of what we do. If this is the last interview I ever do, I think there's enough already that between the show, the books, the people we've helped, it's like you can have a clear print, and that legacy will still continue on, that ripple effect of helping people. It's not just, I can't stand transactional, and it's like, if you don't want to do something, like, why are you wasting your time? Time is precious. Like, if you don't want to talk to someone, don't talk to them. No one's forcing you.
100%, man. And the other thing, obviously, to say from if someone's tuning into this, listens from the business side, obviously, I'd already been doing this. So I ran a lot of agencies, right? And I feel like this is a personal opinion. So I know there's a lot of incredible agencies out there, and it's a hard life. So if there is an agency owner listening out there, I feel you. It's a hard gig to run. But I feel like it's a bit of a flawed business model, because really, what an agency is, if you strip everything back, is it's scaling people, and that becomes quite hard on profit margins. So really, when I was looking into Navar Ravikant and his work, he's a great entrepreneur. He talks a lot about leverage, and there's 4 main types of leverage. You've got people, running a team of people. You've obviously got capital, using other monies to invest, and grow your businesses faster. And then you've got software and code, the big buzzword AI that everyone's talking about, getting software to do things 10 times faster or 10 times cheaper than humans otherwise could. And then we've got the last type, the newest type, which is media. So, we could be recording a podcast here and 10 people might listen to it. I hope not. But we also could record the same podcast, spend the same amount of time, but 100,000 people would listen to that. I hope so. But the point is it's about getting more output for every input of time. And that's what leverage is. And that's where obviously I saw with like the newsletter, as well as it being an inspirational story, which is obviously what I'm going for. It's also a high leverage activity, because, I'm building a database of people who could potentially be customers, whatever I choose to do with it. And I have control of that ecosystem, as opposed to it being on a third-party platform like LinkedIn. So I'm also trying to play smart from the business side of things strategically. And I saw, like, for example, Cody Sanchez, I don't know if you know what she's doing there, but she's obviously building up this big investment portfolio. But the foundation of everything is her newsletter. She's nearly got, I think, 1 million subscribers now. Wow. And she's going to grow that whole thing, like with all the investment companies and portfolio, into like $1 billion business. And I saw, how fast things are moving. And I also just really believe we're just getting started in this whole internet thing. So, a big newsletter, let's say 10 years ago, was 40, 50,000 subscribers. That's now, like, a big newsletter is like 1 million subscribers. And you've seen what the guys at Morning Brew did. They sold for like 75 million. I'm not saying that, like everyone's going to be able to do that, but it shows the potential, because obviously they built up a big ecosystem and database, which then you can build other businesses off the back of that. So I am also trying to play smart. Like I said, I just wanted to kind of provide a bit of business strategy as well to kind of, back up the decision of why I'm focusing on a newsletter. Because at the end of the day, like, if you want to make impact, and that's why I believe in entrepreneurship, you do need to have money, right? Because it's a resource, it's a tool, so you can hire people and, do more things of the world.
Sure.
I think that is why I fundamentally believe in entrepreneurship, Mario, is because if we think about it, and this is a big belief I have, is that the biggest driver of innovation, in my opinion, is constraint. So when people, I'm sure you've had a time when your back's up against the wall and you figure out weird and wacky ways to do new things, right? But those weird and wacky ways extrapolated across, millions of entrepreneurs, they're the big breakthrough innovations that drive this world and humanity forward. And if more entrepreneurs are inspired with self-belief to actually take those risks, then we can leave the world in a better place than we found it. Because Steve Jobs once said, it's the people who are crazy enough or think they're crazy enough to change the world who are the ones who do. But what he didn't say, Mario, is actually the best ideas are found in graveyards all over our lands. Why? Because people didn't have the self-belief to take a risk on their opportunity and their innovation that could have drove humanity forward. And I want to help more entrepreneurs have that self-belief to make those innovations happen. So ultimately, we can leave our world in a better place than we found it.
I love that. Everything you're saying, incredible. There's like 4 points I have to hit. One, Cody's awesome. Would love to have her on. I've been following her for years. I didn't know her newsletter's up to 1 million. And I've always
it's somewhere around there. It's getting close.
I've always been a little contrarian, a lot contrarian myself. I got to ask you about the paid ads from like 15 minutes ago, because you real nonchalantly were like, I've ran multiple 7-figure there, spent 100 million on ad spend. So you clearly know what you're doing there. And I also want to touch on the newsletter as well, because
Sure.
I mean, there's so much I want to ask you, but I'm trying to, I'm taking a lot of mental notes. Talk to me about the ads and why you still think they're a good thing, because there's a lot of people with this. I don't want to spend money on ads, and a lot of people money spending ads that want to spend money on ads. And I'm more with this one, because when you can go, here's $1 and you get $1.50 out of it, it's like, how much can I give you? But I think the misnomer is people think they can put $100 in, they're going to make $1 million overnight. They never figure out the data, they never figure out the testing, and they don't realize that you might have to carry it for 42 days, and they might not be in a position to do so to generate the ROI on the ad spend that they had. How did you figure it out? And obviously, you got to some point, because you want to put 50 million more into it too. You would have never spent what you did if it wasn't working. So how long did it take to get working, and what platforms were you targeting the most?
Yeah. So again, for context, this was our client's money, right? It wasn't actually my money. I wish it was, but we were working with.
You still got the data and got to see what worked, though.
Yeah, of course. We're working with big e-commerce brands. So there's two things I'll say. Firstly, you've got to think from first principles. I really believe in that. You said you're a contrarian. I think it's important to think from a first principle perspective. So let's look at social media platforms, right? What is their goal? Their goal is to get eyeballs. Usually how that starts is they give a lot of organic reach. Why do they do that? So you can get more people to the platform, who then will build businesses off that organic reach. Those creators will draw more people in, they'll have case studies, and more people will flock to it, like what's happened with TikTok in the last couple of years. And then what do you think they're going to do once they've got all of that attention, they've got all that data? They're going to make you pay for it, and they're going to drop the organic reach, and they're going to make you pay for it. So until that business model isn't the business model that all these social media platforms work with, if you don't understand how paid advertising works, you're basically fighting an uphill battle, because that's their end goal. So if you're just relying only on organic traffic, you don't understand how paid ads work, it's a ticking time bomb. Now, if you really want to, you can obviously just keep on jumping on the trends like TikTok, and then when that one dies, there's going to be a new one. You could do that strategy if you wanted to, but really, if you understand how paid advertising works, I think the best way is to obviously do both strategies. Now, the other thing I'll say is, you talked about expectations, people putting $1 in, getting $1 million out. So in e-commerce, when I started out in 2017, Facebook advertising was extremely cheap, but there was a reason for this. Now, the big companies, they were still spending a lot of money in the old methods of advertising, like, TV, radio, newspaper, whatever. So they were just kind of testing the waters out. So that was fantastic for all the entrepreneurs who were building all of these e-commerce brands with obviously the rise of the internet and social media, because it meant with the supply and demand ratio, we talked about that before we got started, didn't we? There was a lot of people to advertise to, but not many advertisers. So it was really cheap to advertise. So what did these companies do? All they did is they just kept on buying customers. But here's what they did wrong. All of their entire supply chain, with their manufacturers, with obviously the team members they hired, all their profit margins, they basically built their entire unit economics of their business on unrealistic market conditions. And then what do you think happened? The big players saw how cheap it was, dumped in all of their budgets, as well as loads more competition coming in from smaller companies, which massively inflated the price. But all these companies over here, who had obviously still got all their unit economics aligned with the unrealistic market conditions, now all of a sudden, they can't make any money anymore. So they were focusing on the wrong thing, and it all comes back to basic fundamentals. So the biggest thing that investors look at, especially for e-commerce brands, is the lifetime value to CAC ratio. And that is essentially lifetime value. How much do people spend over the lifetime they're with your business versus how much does it cost to acquire a customer? Now, a healthy ratio is 3-to-1. So for every, $1 you spend, you get at least 3 out over the course of the lifetime of that customer. But a problem for a lot of these e-commerce brands is not only are they not going to make 3 times, they're just going to break even. They don't even know their numbers to start with. So what we started figuring out is we just didn't work with brands anymore, didn't know their economics. And what I understood about paid advertising, and I heard this from a guy once, and it always stuck with me, it's basically all a game of economics. That's what it is. Because sure, the creative matters, the copywriting really matters, the customer journey matters, the customer experience matters. That's really important. That's business fundamentals. But for advertising, it's all about economics. Because quite simply put, if you can afford to spend 20 times more than your competitor, it actually doesn't matter how good your creative is, you'll always win. And that's the thing that most people and businesses don't understand about paid advertising. It's basically just solving a complex math problem. But the problem is it's not all inside the platform. It's about understanding the unit economics of your own business. And when you really figure that stuff out, that's when with proper forecasting and cost models, that's when things can start to get exciting, because that you can outbid your competitors on the front end. Maybe you can even lose money because 6 months down the line, because you've got enough cash runway, you're going to make profit because you've got an excellent customer experience, great manufacturers, great supply chain, and great profit margins. So, like I said, kind of rounding it up, it's solving a complex math problem. And that's what most people don't understand. And if you can't figure out the numbers, you should not start doing paid advertising, because if you don't know what you're doing, it's essentially gambling.
Wow. That was a great masterclass in paid advertising. Thank you for sharing that with all sincerity, because we've done a little bit, we've done a lot. And when you just said we were doing it so much over here, and I know people, that's their whole end game. I know people, they go, I do email marketing because I hate social media. And there's people on my team, I'm doing my best to wrap my head around all the social stuff, but I agree. I'd rather just talk to you, pick up the phone, let's talk, email, not like one-on-one email. I like that for one-on-one, but people don't realize they don't own whatever social profile they're on. If they want to shut you down tomorrow, they're going to shut you down tomorrow. I've been saying that for 10 years. So I've always been this whole thing's like a powder keg as far as I'm concerned. And that's a whole other thing. However, my goal is also to reach 10,000 businesses with our publishing. And that was my goal when I did the latest book. And I go, I have to figure at least one of these out for that scalability and the reach by the end of the decade to accomplish that. So I've been fighting with some, not fighting, but they're like, oh, have you considered doing this, this, and this? And I'm like, I hate that platform. I hate that one. I don't want to do this. Why? What's the point? What if they should, and I'm very good with the one-on-one and just speaking to a room or whatever, but sitting there all day long trying to figure out like what the algorithm, like, oh my gosh, I could care less.
But let me just add one thing, because this is something I realized a little bit later, is paid advertising is like an amplifier, right? It amplifies. Right. It's kind of like money.
And I want to clarify, I was referring to organic social, because I know there's strategies with that and not paid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd rather pay.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually a big believer in both, but there's actually something even more important that's kind of brings all of them together. And you know how with money, like let's say someone's got a terrible personality, when they get loads of money, it basically just amplifies the terrible personality. You know how that goes, right? That's what paid advertising's like for business. It amplifies a great business or a terrible business. Now, I'll tell you how this works. So let's say that you start spending loads of money on paid advertising and you've got an absolutely terrible product. Now, when someone sees that ad, obviously you can't see this in the data of the impressions. And this is why, the data is not always what it's kind of, chalked up to be. But let's say someone sees that and they're at work and they show it to a friend and they're like, hey, look at this ad. This is really cool. And they're like, I bought that product before. It's terrible. It never worked. Then they just close the ad. They never look at it again. Now, think about this. They show that to that person, and that person's like, that is the best product I've ever bought in my life. Definitely buy it. But here's the really exciting part. When that person then buys it, they then tell 5 of their friends. So if you have a product that's so good, which is fundamentals of business, having a great product, a great customer experience, now what's happening? Every time you buy a customer from paid advertising, you are essentially getting 5, 6 customers, because word of mouth marketing is still the most powerful marketing there is. And if your product isn't good enough that someone's going to tell a friend, then what you're going to be fighting against is the entropy of negative word of mouth. And that's why I've seen this with a lot of e-commerce brands. They're like, why can't we scale, guys? And then I start asking about the testimonials and what the customers say, and there's nothing good there. And it's like, well, this is why you can't scale, guys, because so many people are seeing your ads. But for the people you've already burned through, and obviously you've tried to give those false promises, they buy the products and they've never worked. To think about it, people spread negativity a lot more than positivity. So this is now working against you. So you can't scale in these markets anymore. So actually, to get your paid advertising working, I'm sorry, guys, but you need to go back to the drawing board. You need to fix your products and your customer experience. And then you can put money into paid advertising, because how are you going to compete with a company that's spending on advertising for every customer they're getting 6? How do you compete with that? You can't. And that's why the best companies with the best products and the best customer experience, regardless of it's organic or paid advertising, they're the ones that always win. And that is something that I wish I realized sooner, Mario.
I appreciate you for sharing that, because a lot of people do dump the money into the ads, and all you're doing is creating a bigger problem, escalating it, like you're saying. And if you don't fix it, I would do this in presentations. I don't even know how many years it's been. It's probably at least a decade. But I'd say, who wants 10,000 leads? Everyone raises their hand. I go, who could actually handle that if I gave it to you tomorrow? And it was a third to half. And I go, what's wrong with everyone else? And I would say it's that self-belief, or they knew the product. They're doing all the dog and pony show, and it's like, just shut up for a month and make it that much better, instead of this hamster wheel of you'll see it. Yeah. You'll see that in a second. But there's, you know what I mean? Like you're saying, if you don't have a good enough product, if it's great, run your mouth about it. But I think a lot of people don't even talk about their stuff with excitement because they don't believe in it subconsciously, let alone the negative entropy you're talking about. Now you're actually exacerbating the problem, and you might not be able to even compete with it unless you fix it.
Exactly. And like you say, you're just digging yourself into a bigger hole. And the whole thing kind of bringing this conversation back that we said about the undeniable route being so monumentally good you can't be ignored. You can do that with a business too. It just amplifies everything, because at the end of the day, businesses are just reflection of people, especially the founders of those businesses.
I would argue when you said, how can you compete with someone that's outspending you 6-1? I've done this because I've been the underdog many times. If you have such a good product that no one can touch it, you can take market share from someone who doesn't, even if they're 10 times bigger.
I meant if you have a product that's so good that when you buy one customer, they tell 6 people, how can you compete with that?
Oh, you have to be in the same league. You have to have a product that's so good that
exactly, and people don't want.
Or actually, better, because that would be on par with them. How do you compete with that? Compete and win. You'd have to be better, which is also possible, but that's a tall order.
Yeah, you have to have a product where they tell 10 people, and that's where, as we both know, that's hard work.
So let's talk about making the work easier and leveraging the newsletter, because that was the last, not the last question, but it was also on my list, because I got to be honest, newsletters were irritating me for the longest time. And now you got me thinking maybe it would be worth to revisit doing this proper, because the reality is you do own the list, you do that, but I would say, and everyone's biggest problem, what was ours in the past, how do you consistently keep getting people to subscribe to the newsletter and stay on it?
Yeah, well, staying on it's just basically a good product, right? You got to keep putting out good content. And the thing is like, it's newsletters, but it's also kind of personal branding advice, is that people ask me all the time, through LinkedIn. It's like, Nigel, how do you write better content? And then I start asking them about their life. And then I'm like, well, there's no wonder you don't write good content, because you've got a really boring life. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you. You're not doing anything. You're not taking any risks. So maybe get some life experience and then document that life experience. And that's really cool content. For example, last week or 2 weeks ago, we went and spoke on stage. Me and the guy who's run the newsletter is actually my best childhood friend, Dan, and we haven't spoken for 10 years. And when I came back to the UK, I found him, and that's how all this thing came to light.
Wow,
so it's a really
awesome.
cool story. I brought him on stage at the end. It was really emotional. But we got in front of 2,000 people, and that was a great thing to talk about, right? But obviously that was pretty risky. Like, we did a really big, bold speech in front of 2,000 people that could have gone wrong. And there was a really cool piece of content, but it's because we took a risk there. So I think that for the newsletter, it's actually be doing cool things and just document what you're doing. That's one way to do it. Then in terms of obviously getting people to subscribe, well, that's where obviously you've got to understand human psychology, right? I talk about this a lot, but whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram, whether it's YouTube, the core fundamental of getting people's attention, which as we both know is the new oil, is you've got to understand human psychology. And I think a lot of people, they copy other creators, but the real ones, the real original ones, they understand human psychology at its core. So when the algorithm changes and that kind of content doesn't work anymore, they know the why behind the what. And that's the real issue that most people have these days. They don't do that deep research. They don't understand human psychology. And when the trends all shift and the algorithms change, now they can't get subscribers anymore because they never understood the why. And the people who do, they adapt. And then obviously they keep getting more subscribers. So I know that might sound a bit out there and high level, but I'd rather teach people how to fish for a lifetime instead of just giving them the fish.
I love your analogies, and I appreciate you sharing. I prefer high level, so thank you for going there. And yeah, if you don't know the psychology, you're going to have to be dancing 3 times a day, in different locations instead of once a day just to play the game, so to speak. That's not a business. That's, I don't want to knock it too much, because what a great opportunity. We live in a time where you literally don't need to know anything and you can build the following, but I also see it as a gift that even if you start that way, like many businesses do, all businesses do. I think if you go into business I think a lot of people, at least the people I know, started with the intent to be able to serve people more. I see a lot of the social, let's just say, stuff as like, oh, it was easy. I did it anyway. All I got to do is film it. You know, there was a promo that said if I do 10 videos a week, I'll get $500 or $1,000. That turns into the next. It's a great opportunity, but I will say for anyone listening, if that's the background, treat it as an opportunity. Don't think you do know everything and realize it could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you're just making videos just for going viral, like, trust me, when you go through hard times, if that's what your purpose is, you're going to have a real problem.
Yeah. And people can see through it too. Like there was someone, I'm not going to name, but they go, oh, you know her? And they're like, it sounds familiar to, and it's like, in their definition, regardless of the money, regardless of this and yada, yada. Oh, you'd know her. She's the one that always posts the selfies constantly, incessantly. Oh, yeah, I remember her from the thing time ago. Yeah. And it's like, time's going to go by. What do you want to be known for? Like, is it business? Is it personal? Is it spiritual? Is it financial? Like, what do you want to be known for, I guess? You know, like I said, that ripple effect. Like, unless this is going to have an ongoing thing, that's my filter the last 7 to 10 years. Even more so, like, harder filter. Like, is this going to impact someone's life, whether I'm here or not?
Yeah, man. I'm sure what you're doing is. So you can live and die by that.
And you too.
Yeah.
You're doing on a honestly bigger scale. Like I don't have tens of dozens. I would love to have 100,000, 1 million people on a thing and impact them because I know why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm sure it's just a matter of time, but I probably have to calm down on some certain beliefs that may or may not be true. And I'm admitting it because clearly there's successful people like you and other people out there that are just killing it. And I'm like, here's what I'll say. One, I would love that platform to be able to help more people globally. But if it never happens, I'm also very thankful you can still have a very successful business helping people with a much smaller audience. You don't need that just to pull off what you want to do to help people.
Yeah. And the other thing is it all looks like sunshine and rainbows, but behind the scenes, it's absolute chaos. Like doing things last minute.
Do you have a solution for that? How do you achieve that without the chaos?
How do you achieve it without the chaos?
Yeah.
Hire a team. You have to be good at leadership.
Oh, okay.
Because
I got to pick up more John Maxwell stuff instead of copywriting.
Yeah, right. It was interesting because I remember I spoke to this guy who really inspired me. His name's Drew Green, and he's the CEO of Indochino. Now, this guy's got an incredible backstory. So imagine this. He's, been in business quite a while himself, and he was presented with this incredible opportunity, Mario, where he got offered the CEO job of one of Amazon's highest divisions, okay?
Wow.
And they literally put a blank check in front of this guy because he was that good and said, you can have whatever you want, Drew. You know what he said? He said no. And instead, he went to Indochino, they're a tailored men's brand. They do like suits and stuff. And they were really like in a bad way. They were in a real bad way. And he said, no, I'm going to fix this instead. Within 6 years, he's turned that business around. I think they're doing over 200 million in revenue, the second fastest growing company in the entirety of Canada. And I asked him, I was like, Drew, how did you do it? And he was like, Nigel, he was like, you want to know the secret? It's all about the people. All about the people. And it just rewired my thinking because I was like, people talk about between 0 to 1 million, it's all about tactics. All about tactics. Everyone's talking about tactics. Like, how do I, optimize this landing page and all that sort of stuff. 1 to 10 million, it's all about systems. You're getting the right systems in place, making sure you know your numbers. And then 10 to 100 million, It's all about people. So then it got me thinking. I was like, well, surely there's a way that, sure, you need resources. I get it. You need to get off the ground. But surely there's a way to start thinking like the person who's already at 100 million, just get there faster. And that's when people talk to me, for example, about, oh, you're not worried, Nigel, about AI. It's going to replace all of our jobs. I don't think like that. I think I will build up my resources with leverage and I will hire the best AI person in the world to work on my team because it's a great opportunity for him. And then together we'll build something even bigger. Because this is the thing, when you know how to lead people, and that's why leadership is one of, if not the best skills. Not everyone can be a leader, but if you are, it's an incredible skill set. You can get a whole team. And as we kind of drawing all this back again to the whole, like people being lonely, we are tribal by nature. And as humans, we're imperfectly imperfect. So we're imperfectly perfect, rather. So we've got to admit we don't have strengths in all areas. And that's why we need to collaborate with other people. Because when we were back as humans of tribes, you know, some people were going out there finding the food. Some people were leading the tribe. Some people were taking care of the tribe. We all had our unique things that we were doing. And that's why we're all wired so differently. But as together, as a tribe, we come together and we build these incredible things, Mario. And that's what I think people don't realize. So I think to handle the chaos, you've got to go through that period to build up the resources. But if you can start thinking more as a leader, earlier doors, and then start hiring people, paying them what they're worth, and having a mission to get them on board with, and then driving them forward and getting more out of their potential together, that's how you stop the chaos. And that's how you build an organization that inspires generations to come.
Jeez. I'm blown away. You're incredible.
Appreciate you,
I appreciate the insights and everything, and I wish we had more time. I feel like I say this often, but I'm happy to say it's the honest to God truth because I don't say stuff I don't mean. I have a few more questions for you, but I really wish we could just do like a weekend seminar or something. But I made a joke about that hamster wheel earlier. I actually have one. This is the wheel of whatever. Would you like yellow questions or black ones?
Ooh, black.
Yeah. All right. We got to make it. We'll stop it right here. Now, with your renewed outlook on life, mission, and goal, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Oh, very good question.
You got to think about it. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Just debating it.
You know what?
What's that?
I don't know the answer. And I'm okay with that. Because I feel like life's... I used to be this guy, I still am to some extent, who just needed to plan everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I planned everything out of this woman, right? There was a really close connection with the child, and it was really messy. And that just got taken away from me. And it just shattered my entire world. So it just made me realize, like, I'm not in control of everything. And I can't plan everything. But then, obviously, David to Goliath's come out of this. And I would never have imagined that. I would have thought I was still CEO of that marketing agency. So I do want to do big things. I want to build a big business that inspires a lot of people. I want to maximize my own potential. I really feel like my true calling in life is to be a leader and to build a big community, whatever that looks like. Probably something to do with entrepreneurship. But that's as much as I need to know right now. And I feel like I'll figure out the rest along the way with self-belief.
Wow, good for you. And I will also say you are a leader and you're already doing a great job. So I'm excited to continue to see what you do over the years, because if you're doing this much already, good for you.
Yeah. How old do you think I am?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm debating about going over here and seeing if I can.
That's a black question for you, Mario.
If you said 45 or 50 mentally, I'd say I see it, but I have a suspicion you're under 30.
32.
Okay.
Yeah, so still a baby in business, man.
Yeah, you got 40, 50 years ahead of you, easy.
Yeah,
more.
That's why I love business, by the way, because it's the only sport we can play for our entire lives.
I was trying to do a quick calc because you said at 26 after 10 years at one point, but I'm like, well, how long ago was that 26?
Yeah.
you left out 6 years ago when I was 26. Like that would have...
6 years as an entrepreneur. I didn't even, you know what's funny is when I was 26 years old and I was in that corporate job, I had to Google what entrepreneur meant. I'm not ashamed to say
I
it.
love it
no idea.
Because so many people are just like, they have to have everything figured out. I can't start the business without a business plan. I can't start it without a website. I can't start it without business cards. And it's like, you're the business.
Exactly. I love
like, you
that.
can figure that. There's people I know that got to 300, 400 grand in revenue yearly before they had a website.
Yeah. By the way, I love that phrase. You should frame that. You are the business. That's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really wish we did have more time to talk. We have to thank the sponsor, and we'll come back with the imperfect action round, but you're incredible. We'll be right back. You've heard me say every business needs a book, including yours, and it's true. And that's why I'm launching my new book at eapublishingmethodbook.com, so you can learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. But you know what? Don't take my word for it. Take it from a few of my authors, like Lori.
And I went from having an idea and a possibility to actually getting my book published.
Or Catherine.
Thank you for making my mom #1 best-selling author.
Or Mary Alice.
What he got done for me in 3 days regarding my book launch, unmanageable.
John Cody.
I've worked with Mario over the phone and online, and he's been very helpful in getting me where I needed to go with promoting my books.
Rocio.
There's no way in the world I would have been able to do this with somebody else. I've attempted it in the past. It didn't serve me. As a matter of fact, I ended up more frustrated than anything. So this has been a very seamless process.
Adele.
If you're looking for an amazing business coach, I highly recommend Mario Ficini.
Or Bill Benner.
I can't make a higher recommendation than to work with Mario Ficini. He has been great for me, and right now I won't work with anybody else except for Mario.
Hey, their words, not mine. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com to get your copy, and I look forward to hearing your transformation as our next video success story. Once again, that's eapublishingmethodbook.com. And we're back with the imperfect action round. I just got to say, I felt like a telethon or something. It just felt like we'll be right back after we thank our sponsor. Like, this is very calming and surreal. So, but we are back, and it is the imperfect action round. I got 3 questions. What do I have for you? Yeah, 3 questions for you. Rapid fire answers, 60 seconds or less. The first one is, what is the fastest path to the cash?
Sales. I'm doing it the hard way. So,
what's the hard way of sales?
Asking more people and facing rejection head on. So, if you don't have any experience
selling the pen.
Yeah, exactly. Selling the pen. Cold calling, cold emailing, reaching out to people, asking them questions, going for coffees with people, getting rejected, getting the door slammed in your face, and with the self-belief as your sling, charging forward until you get that one yes, which opens up all the doors to your true potential. How about that?
I love it. Love the energy too. You got me thinking, why do you think that is? What do you think is the byproduct of doing it that way? I'll tee you up a little bit.
Yeah, resilience.
Okay. I was also thinking the experience and data you get from it to be able to make decisions on the fly of what's working and what's not.
Yeah, it's a lot of things. I think the other thing is you learn a lot about yourself in the hard times. Right? The best lessons come from the most painful experiences. When you really put yourself out there, and obviously,
True.
there's failures there as a big option. That's when you find out who you really are and how bad you want it, and that's all internal. But that's a really important part of life. And the last thing, let me just say one last thing for the cash. You don't ask, you don't get in life.
Ooh, I like that. Agreed. Again, wish we had more time. 2, what's the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way for them to fix it?
So I'm doing some consulting with some agencies, and I think their biggest problem is their mindset. So a lot of them, they don't charge high enough prices. They don't think they can hire certain people. They don't think they can work with this client. And I started to think it was all these like tactics and things like that. And then I just realized it's literally, a lot of it is just in between the ears. And it all comes back to self-belief. So I'd say self-belief.
Man, we could do a half-day training on just what's the origin of why people have such horrible self-belief.
Yeah, and probably a lot goes back to that childhood and bullying like we spoke about.
Maybe more than 3 hours. What's the third one? Customer lifetime value. What's the best way to maximize it?
Have an incredible product, just an undeniable product, which your customers, you give your customers an experience in their life which they will never ever forget. If you can do that, you will never ever have a problem with lifetime value.
Love it. Being a publisher, I have to ask you about books. What ones would you recommend for Expert Authority World?
Well, we already talked about Naval. So there's someone, I can't remember his name, but he basically put all of Naval's best content together in a book. So Naval Ravikant, you can go search it on Amazon. That's an incredible one.
I know. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you've seen it. So another one I think just incredibly important for understanding humans, whether that's leadership, whether it's marketing, whatever it is Robert Cialdini's work. He's an incredible psychologist.
Persuasion?
And his book, influence, The 6 principles of persuasion, influence. And persuasion is obviously the updated one, but influence is the original one. And that is an incredible book. I love that. I've got a lot of books, man. Trying to think of any other ones that like really, really deeply inspired me. I'll tell you what, there's an outsider one. So there's this guy called Eddie Hearn, and I don't know if you know who he is, but he's basically a boxing promoter. Now, he was given the keys to the kingdom, or that's what people used to say, because his dad's name is Barry Hearn. He came from like nothing, like literally the bottom of the social chain, and built this business, this sports promotion company, right, called Matchroom. They do a lot of boxing and other sports, but mainly boxing. And for his whole life, Eddie was known as Barry's son. Okay, he had this massive chip on his shoulder. And he was like, "You're the silver spoon kid. You've got everything given to you." And he was like, "No, I don't. I just do not agree with that. I'm going to make something so," again, we talk about undeniable, so undeniably good that I'm going to switch that. And now Matchroom Boxing, they've got this big deal with the DAZN platform. They're worth over $1 billion. And it's got to the point now when they see the two together, people go up to his dad, Barry Hearn, and they say, "Oh, you're Eddie's dad." So he's literally switched human psychology because like he's made that much impact. Well, the reason I say his name, and he's got a book called Relentless, The 12 Rounds to Success, is because this guy, and a lot of people call him arrogant, his self-belief, and yeah, he's a boxing promoter, but his self-belief is just absolutely incredible. Like, I fucking love this guy. So if you want confidence, you want self-belief, but also someone who massively backs it up and just is so hardworking. Eddie Hearn, 12 Rounds to Success, Relentless. It's a fantastic book on the raw realities of building a massive business in an industry like boxing. So I'll check that one out.
I appreciate you suggesting that and recommending it because, yeah, when you have ironclad belief, there's almost nothing that, it's not that you want stuff to go wrong, but there's almost nothing that can go wrong that's going to sway you. Long term, yeah. You're probably going to be irritated a day or two and then, get over it and your resolve is going to be even stronger. But yeah, I like that a lot.
I've got one more. Have we got time?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So there's a do you know rugby, the sport?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically the All Blacks, New Zealand, it's like a tiny country. At the time, the rugby team was a laughing stock. Okay. They were just not doing well at all. And there's this guy who took over from them. I actually can't remember the coach's name, but basically over the course of a decade, he turned them into the best rugby team that's ever existed, ever. And basically there's this guy called, I think it's James Kerr, who went in with the coach into the dressing room and he saw what this guy had done and he sat down with him and he taught all the principles and they broke it down into 15 principles and it's called Legacy. And it's the best book on leadership I've ever read. It's absolutely phenomenal. And it talks about the principles, how they hire not on talent, they hire literally just on principles. And it's incredible for leaders who want to, build a really good culture and organization, and how this guy turned a team from a laughing stock into the world's best ever rugby team. And they break it down to these 15 principles. It's an amazing read.
Tell me the author's name again.
James Kerr, I believe. Legacy, it's called.
Wow. Okay. I'll make sure that's on the show notes for eainterviews.com. All of it will be, but I want to make sure. Sounds good. It sounds real good. Thank you for everything. Can't say enough good stuff, but where would you like people to learn more?
So davidtogoliath.com is the newsletter. And like I said at the start, it's not just another boring email that's going to sit in your inbox gathering dust. No, this is a story. This is a tale of how David went to Goliath with raw, naked personality splashed all over your inbox. So go out to davidtogoliath.com, 2 newsletters every single week, one about my comeback on Tuesday, one on Thursdays about the best underdog stories of our generation, and it's all for free. davidtogoliath.com. Thank you so much. And let me just share this with you. The tagline to our company, keep dreaming like a giant, but fight and believe in your dreams like a goddamn underdog, baby.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for your time and sharing all this. Not just the information, but the passion. I really wish we had more time, but thank you again.
Likewise. I appreciate you for who you are. You're doing incredible things. And remember in this conversation you told me about who you really are. Keep showing that person to the world because that person's an incredible human. And I really thank you for letting me be part of it today.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Nigel. All right, Expert Authority World, we have another great episode here today. I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day, and God bless. You're already the expert, but have you transformed your expertise into a tangible asset that will generate qualified leads while increasing profit for you 24/7? And if so, how well are you promoting it? With my new book, The Expert Authority Effect Publishing Method, I take you through my process step by step. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com to get started now. Once again, that's eapublishingmethodbook.com. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I would love to know what you enjoyed most from it. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to connect with me on my new LinkedIn. You can go to it directly at eainterviews.com/LinkedIn. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/LinkedIn. Lastly, check out the full eainterviews.com site for complete show notes, the full interview video experience, links to the resources we mentioned, and more. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you on the next one.